We're here holding the Congress of the World Congress of the International Marxist Tendency, which opened with a discussion on world perspectives, which is a discussion on what is happening in the world, the crisis of capitalism, the movement of the working class, and all the major events affecting humanity today. The discussion centered, first of all, on the developing crisis of capitalism, an unprecedented crisis in the history of humanity. We are only at the beginning of a process, but this is going to prove to be the most serious crisis that this system has lived through. This is reflected in many things. One, the extremely high levels of debt, which is affecting many countries which are defaulting on debt, unable to pay the debt, in some cases unable to pay the interest. This is producing economic collapse of several countries and huge social explosions, such as what we saw in Sri Lanka and what we're seeing in other countries like Peru, or the movement in France against the attempts to cut to raise the retirement age, the big movement of the workers in Britain, and many other countries. The war in the Ukraine is a symptom of this crisis. It's a reflection of the conflict between the major powers in a world in crisis where every major power is trying to protect and extend its spheres of influence, its markets, etc. A conflict like that in the Ukraine at some point is going to happen. Ukraine is not the only flashpoint. We have Taiwan, which reflects the conflict between China and the United States for the same reason, a conflict over who controls the Pacific, who controls the southeast of Asia, etc. We have the coup in Niger, which reflects the unbearable tensions which have built up in Africa, and it's another flashpoint of conflict between Russia and the West. But at the same time, we have what we detect as the international Marxist tendency is a growing radicalization amongst layers of the working class, and particularly the youth. We saw the movement in France, as I referred to earlier on, but it's clear it's not the only movement. We have many movements across the world, but in particular, young people are waking up to the fact that this world is in a deep crisis. The system they live in, capitalist system, is the cause of the problems. It's the cause of the wars. It's the cause of the famine that's hitting large parts of Africa. It is the cause of climate change, which is ruining the lives of millions of people and dramatically changing people's living conditions. Here in Italy, just a few days ago, another boat sank off the south of Italy, a boat that left I think it was Tunisia. 41 people died, including children. There is desperation in the world, people trying to escape the terrible conditions in which they live. But those conditions are made by humans. It's not a natural disaster. It's a consequence of the capitalist system. It's the capitalists who are trying to increase their profit and protect their spheres of influence. They're prepared to go to war, sacrificing the lives of hundreds of thousands of young people, forcing them to kill each other like we see in the Ukraine. Young Russians against young Ukrainians. For who? For the profits of the oligarchs in Russia and for the profits of the American and European capitalist class, which are pushing for this war. They are spending huge amounts of money on military spending when people are going hungry. We produce enough food globally to feed everyone at this stage, and yet people are going hungry for the simple fact that they cannot afford to buy the food and the disruption in food supplies provoked by the wars that we see, particularly the war in the Ukraine. Now, the youth are beginning to rebel, and they are looking for an alternative. That's why we have realized as a tendency that there is a searching for communist ideas, genuine communist ideas, ideas of social revolution, ideas to put an end to the capitalist system. And what we're saying to these young people is, if you really want to change the world, join a genuine communist organization, an organization which bases itself on the ideas of Marx, of Engels, the great ideas of Lenin, the only genuine Marxist to actually organize years before and prepare for a successful socialist revolution, for the ideas of Trotsky, who continued in the tradition of Lenin. Join that organization, which is the International Marxist Tendency, and help us to build an organization which can actually create a mass force which, in the long term, can end the nightmare of this system. That's what the INT is about. That's what we've been discussing the last few days.